Hi, a few weeks ago I said I'd make a video about objectivism, and not having read any objectivism before, I decided to read the Ayn Rand sampler to get a basic idea of what objectivism is about. This is a little book you can get free from the Ayn Rand Institute. It's got extracts from two of her novels, Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, and it's got an excerpt from the Romantic Manifesto on her aesthetic theory, and another extract from The Virtue of Selfishness, dealing with her moral theory, moral and political, I would say. Now, I'm not going to deal with the aesthetic theory here, nor really with the epistemology. I'll deal mainly with the moral theory here, moral and political side, and I'm going to look in particular at an extract from The Virtue of Selfishness, which is in the book, and I obviously can't deal with everything, and I think this is at the centre of Ayn Rand's philosophy, so I'd just like to read you a little extract from there, and then I'll say what I think about that. Right, this is from page 70 of the Ayn Rand sampler. An excerpt from The Virtue of Selfishness. Jobs, food, clothing, recreation, homes, medical care, education, etc. do not grow in nature. These are man-made values, goods and services produced by men. Who is to provide them? If some men are entitled by right to the products of the work of others, it means that those others are deprived of rights and condemned to slave labour. Any alleged right of one man, which necessitates the violation of the rights of another, is not and cannot be a right. No man can have a right to impose an unchosen obligation, an unrewarded duty, or an involuntary servitude on another man. There can be no such thing as the right to enslave. Okay, so what can we say about this passage here? Ayn Rand is saying that rights, there may be rights, but these are human rights, and these are the kind of rights that are set out in the American Constitution, and indeed in the Universal Declaration of the Declaration of the Rights of the Citizen in the French, that was set out in the French Revolution. Ayn Rand says that certain things are not covered by rights, such as jobs, food, clothing, and so on, medical care and education. And her justification for this is that these are goods and services produced by men. So if you give somebody the right to them, you're taking something from those men and women that have produced them. She never uses the term woman, by the way. It's just something I added. Now, I think at the basis of Ayn Rand's philosophy, I think there's a very powerful principle, a very powerful moral ideal, which is that of individual liberty. And I recognise the strength of this. I think you can understand something of her approach by looking at her biography. Ayn Rand was somebody who emigrated from Russia, from communist Russia, which is in a particularly moving towards a totalitarian system. And she went to the United States, and she's a typical example of somebody who arrived with nothing, and of the rags to riches story. And I think we can recognise the power of this kind of story and this this ideal of going and making your own way and being a self-made man or self-made woman. But I think the danger of this approach is that you're insisting on one value, liberty, to the expense of all others. And the French Republican motto is liberty, equality, fraternity. I'm not saying the French system is the best by any means, but I think it is good in the sense that it sets out several conflicting values that we have to balance with each other. And I think the danger of an approach like Ayn Rand's is that there can be too much insistence on just one value, which is liberty here. Liberty is not the sole value, it's an important value, but it has to be balanced with other values. That's the first point. The second point I'd like to make is that there's an idealisation of liberty as it exists in the real world. For somebody who's come from another country, who's made their way up from the bottom, well, I think all of us have a tendency to universalise our own particular subjective experience, and forgetting sometimes the conditions that made that possible. Ayn Rand is no doubt, or was no doubt, somebody exceptional, somebody with a highly intelligent woman. I don't know her educational background, but no doubt very educated, literate, and also somebody with immense confidence and will. And I think the tendency can be that she thinks that everybody possesses these qualities, and they don't come from nowhere. If somebody has all these qualities, there's something that they've learned during their childhood. It's not everybody who was capable of leaving Russia at that time, even though they might have wished to. People had family obligations. Other people just didn't have the strength of will to do it, or the confidence for that kind of move. So there's qualities, but they're not necessarily qualities that are possessed by everybody at all times. I think there can be a tendency to forget the conditions that make liberty possible, and this kind of liberty, in Ayn Rand's case, it was she was a young woman. You know, she was free of family ties, and she was able to uproot and go and live in another place, and she was starting out in life. So her freedom came out of her particular biography and social situation. And this freedom is not something that's possessed by everybody. She had intellectual freedom, she was already a free thinker. So these things can't be ignored. I would just say something about the language used by Ayn Rand. She tends to use quite extreme language, like evil, the word evil, it comes up a lot. And here she uses the word, in this passage, the word to enslave, saying that even if you're taxing people a small amount, then this is equivalent to enslavement. Well, I think this is really a bit ridiculous, because enslavement means that you own somebody, body and soul, so to speak. You determine their being, you determine where they can go, what they can do. Whereas all we're asking for here is, with taxation, all taxation is asking for is a contribution towards the society to make sure that everybody has these liberties, or that we equal out some of these liberties. I can see I'm running out of time, but I think I've made a few points there, and I would like to hear back from anybody, in particular any objectivists who think that I haven't been fair. Of course, I haven't read everything, far from it, by Ayn Rand, but I've got a little idea now, and that's my perspective on it. Thanks.